Hello and welcome everybody to the, I don't know which episode this is, sort of thing that I suppose people might sort of keep in track of if they were so inclined to do so, and perhaps going forward into the future, I just might be. But for right now, I'd just like to say hello and welcome to everybody. I'm currently posting the YouTube link. And we'll just post it up there so that hopefully anybody will watch it and come to enjoy our conversation and or drop into the comments and leave us some questions, and hopefully I'll be able to catch them while we are live streaming and I will be able to answer them. In the meantime, the 10100, hello and welcome, you weary traveler, you worker, you person who is tired of being a wage slave. We are trying to put together an idea where we will create a network of worker-owned enterprises that are built around a local community of friends and of people who are committed to shared values, specifically the shared value of working in a democratic workplace. So we have democracy in our public offices because we've decided that having kings and rulers isn't such a hot idea. All we're suggesting with the 10100 is that we bring that same idea of democracy to the workplace, where we will end up voting for our managers of the businesses. And we will reward people who create business ideas that we utilize within the 10100. So it's an incentive there where anybody who proposes a business for our 10100 will be incentivized with a permanent or an auto-generated dividend share, we shall say. For as long as that business is operating and functioning within the 10100, that is something that we would offer to business visionaries to reward them for their investing in their ideas. So, again, real quickly, 10100, 10 businesses, 100 members. Our membership fee is $100 a month. So to the math-minded, you can automatically see that with 100 members, we're going to do quite well over a period of time. I don't know who this is. We're going to take a thing here and we're going to admit them. Hello.
Hey.
Hey, is that Angel?
Yeah, it is.
Angel! Excellent. Hello and welcome to the conversation today. We have in the conversation joining us as well, of course, is Laura. Laura, meet Angel. Angel, meet Laura.
Hello.
Pleasure.
Angel is like the rest of us, a fellow, a sojourner in the journey of being a wage slave in this world. And I would like to hope, I'd like to think is hoping for something more. As is Laura, I should say, Angel. Yeah, I was just talking about the 10100, just going over the brief introduction and overview as I usually do. So to sum up, 10100, 10 businesses, 100 members, bringing our membership fee of $100 a month. That ends up creating the pool of capital, 120 grand a year, from which we will then end up planting our businesses from sequentially, voted on by the majority of the members, and we get things going, and we create our own workplaces, and so that's the idea of the 10100. So, actually, Angel, seeing as you're here, one of the things that I know that we had kind of briefly talked about before was about accounting and things like that. And you'd asked if we would need an accountant, and the answer is absolutely yes. We would have an accounting department because of how the 10100 operates. We would have 10 for-profit businesses. And of course, if you're running a business, you want to have an accountant on hand. And so that's when you're running 10 businesses, you're going to want to have a couple of accountants on hand. And so when we talk about the 10100, we're talking about finding 10 different business-minded people. So 10 people with, what do you call, business ideas, right? And
entrepreneurial people.
Entrepreneurially minded people indeed. And for every person that has a business idea, I'm betting that they have a group of friends or people in mind already whom they've already thought about forming their business with. So each business-minded, entrepreneurial-minded individual hopefully comes with at least 2 or 3 of their friends in tow, increasing our membership. And then depending on the nature of the business that they have in mind, we'll be able to go into the community and find like-minded people who are willing to do work, who are willing to invest in a business that they are going to become co-owners in and reap the benefits of. So I'm estimating, like, the plan calls for a variety of different businesses that are diverse. The more diverse, the better, in my opinion, especially in our area, where your options seem to be open a retirement community, which is one of the options we're considering. Open a restaurant, which is also one of the options we're considering. You know, something to trap tourists in, which is another thing we're considering. And beyond that, possibly something in the trades, which is also something we're considering. And oh, lost my train of thought there. Point of the matter is this. On average, I'm estimating that each business will require about anywhere between 8 to as much as 12 or 14 people per business. But it averages out to about 8 in my mind. So there might be some businesses that, might have as few as like 2 or 3 people in them, and some businesses that may have as many as 14, that sort of idea. But on average, it works out to be about 8. So the 20 people left over of the 100 members are going to form the core administration business. That's going to be our tax department, our accounting department, our human resources, or in our case, it's not going to be human resources, it's going to be member development. Every person who works within the 10100 is a member, and every member is an owner of this business. And the idea being that once a quarter, we're going to get together as co-owners of these collection of businesses, and we're going to divide amongst ourselves what we do with the dividends, any surpluses that we've managed to make over the course of the quarter, and also vote on any other businesses or any business that is necessary for us to vote on. For example, things like because we have 10 businesses on our list that we want to plant, that we want to start, we can't plant them all at the same time. We can't start them all at the same time. We need to start them one at a time. Most likely we will start them one at a time. Later on, as we grow and we have, say, 4 or 5 businesses up and running, we might try to do 2 at the same time if we're big enough and we have enough resources in the bank. But basically, every business that gets started turns itself back into the business and reinvests itself. so that as the business does well, we create a much larger pool of capital from which to plant the next group of businesses. And of course, the larger the pool of capital, the faster we can start our businesses. And my hope, my plan, knock on the wood, is for us to come out of the quarantine ready to go with 100 members with different business dreams that they just are itching for the possibility or itching for the chance to get to start their business here in Owen Sound and the greater Owen Sound area. The whole Bruce Peninsula, as far as I'm concerned, is our stomping ground, and I'm looking forward to doing what we can to grow the kind of place we want to work in, which is kind of with all our friends, and in a place where if we know if we're going to put in the extra hours that they're always asking us to put in, we're going to get rewarded for it. And if we don't want to, we can turn down shifts because we're the owners. And yeah, it's getting to the place of where you don't have to worry about where your next paycheck is going to come from. In a way, it's like creating we're starting with the union, and instead of looking for a group of owners for us to engage with in order to get better paid jobs, we're starting with ourselves, and we're going to grow our own businesses. We're going to purchase franchises and start our own fast food restaurants and all of the good stuff. How you doing there, Laura?
I'm trying to figure out how that app works, and I left the meeting and then came back and then left and came back, and I was like, oh crap, all I want to do, I need to make a bathroom run, and I was just gonna like turn my screen off and disappear for a bit. Yeah. I'll be right back.
No worries.
It's disgusting. Good grief.
Sounds good. Yeah. So, do you have any questions so far?
So far, not.
Fair enough. Did I explain how the dividend structure works before?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, do you know, are you familiar with the term dividend? That's probably a good question to start with.
Yes, I am.
Oh, good.
I am familiar with that term.
Oh, excellent. So, then, for anybody who happens to be watching, and to refresh my memory, dividends, of course, are what corporations pay out their shareholders, usually once a quarter. And within the 10-100, when we draw up our bylaws and we ratify everything, we're going to have a universal living wage that every business adheres to. So if you work any shift in any of the 10-100 businesses, so for example, we might have a restaurant business where you might work as in the kitchen. And in a situation like that, let's say you only want to work 20 hours in the kitchen this week, then you would just sign up for 20 hours, and your seniority within that particular business would determine which shifts that you would get based on what was available. I like to think of it as, did you ever go to summer camp?
I did, yes.
Okay, so at the summer camp I went to, they had an activity board that you would sign up at the beginning of the day. And so we were given the color-coded dongles, I don't know what else to call them, that had our number on them. And each color was a different time of the day. And so we basically were given, okay, so from 10 o'clock in the morning to 12, you're going to be at this, doing this activity during this time. That's the red dongle. You know, afternoon was the blue dongle, evening was the green dongle, that sort of thing. And so we would just go up and put the dongles up on whatever was available, whichever activity we wanted to. And it was sort of first come, first serve. I've often thought it would be really cool to have something similar, just in terms of being able to set up shifts where managers would post what shifts are required to be filled, and anybody who was qualified to work that shift, for example, the manager of the restaurant in the 10100 has need of kitchen staff. So any member in the 10100 who is certified on, has their kitchen, I don't know what we would call it, but we'll call it kitchen skills 101, or a certain level of kitchen skills that basically tells the manager, yeah, this person knows how to work in a kitchen, could apply for these shifts. Concurrently, because I know we talked about accounting. If you were somebody who was part of the accounting team, so you were a member of the 10100 who would basically have, in addition to your name, you would have like a little, it's a digital badge, but I like to think of it as like a little badge on your shirt that says accounting department. And so any shift that was for the accounting department, because you can do accounting, you could apply for a shift. And the way that would work is the manager of the accounting department would, or whoever is running the office would determine that we need, okay, we've got so many hours of accounting that needs to be handled this week. So we're going to put these different shifts out there for the different accounting things. And we'll have the usual suspects that will end up working and just kind of filter into whatever their shifts will end up being. Is what I'm anticipating. There might be some kinks to work out in terms of all that. Lord knows I've not scheduled more than a dozen people at any given time. And I'm thinking that by virtue of the fact that all the businesses are pretty small themselves, scheduling should be fairly easily worked out between the different members and the people there. All that to be said, dividend shares. Anybody who works a shift gets paid the same basic living wage. I've been thinking $20 an hour because it's really easy to do the math, and I really like the idea of getting paid $20 an hour. Lost Angel. Anyway, and of course the provincial minimum wage rate at the moment is it's not quite $15. But $15 is also a very easy mathematics thing to calculate. When we actually end up incorporating, we may end up with a really different number. It may be something like 1872 or 1675 is like the wage that gets paid out, and that's the universal wage throughout the entire 10100. But you know what? I keep saying $20 an hour because if we can make the 10100 work at $20 an hour, that means that, in theory, at any rate, people could work part-time hours, 20 hours a week, 27 hours a week, 28 hours a week, whatever, and work part-time shifts, 3 days a week, 4 days a week at most. And the rest of the week can be to yourself, to your own, whatever you will be, and you'd still be able to earn a living. You could do that, just about do that with $20 an hour. in this part of the world. If you were working full-time with $20 an hour, you could possibly even raise a small family, which would be awesome, I think. And I would love to support something like that. And if nothing else, it's that's all money that ends up going back into the local community after a very short period of time, especially for people in our income bracket. So, but once we've determined that we have the base minimum wage, hourly wage, the living wage, what we do to incentivize people is to give them dividends. Anyway, it's just you and me, Laura, so I'm probably not going to go re-over all of this again. But yeah, one of the things, I don't know if you're no, it doesn't look like it. But whenever you return, Laura, one of the things that Lauren and I talked about last week that I think is very interesting and worth exploring, two things. One is the idea of including our customer base in the possibility of sort of operating as a social enterprise. Where are you back now? Did you re-listen to what I was saying before?
We still lost. Sorry, what was their name?
Oh,
I
Angel.
just lost my internet dropped because the internet's been dropping sporadically for ages, and I've had to call people several times about it, so I might drop again.
Mercy me. When we're off stream, we should discuss what who your internet provider is and see if we can't get you something better. But
well, see, the thing is, I get amazing customer service. Versus, it's not Rogers or Bell, which means Rogers and Bell are actively trying to make my experience worse so that I will switch to them.
Gotcha. I'm with a
Yeah.
non-Rogers or Bell internet provider as well. So I always love pushing their service, which is relatively reliable, I like to think. Relatively. Two things I wanted to discuss before I got into the book today, although I may give the book a miss, and because it's a beautiful day out.
Yeah, I don't want to stick around. I'll be honest, I probably won't stick around for the book part because it's just too nice outside, and
I hear you.
yeah.
And that's fine. I'm really looking forward to... okay, so then three things, and we'll call it a day. What were the first two things? I was talking about it before. Forget the first thing. The second thing was... Oh, right. Oh, no, sorry. The first thing was social enterprise. Are you familiar with the term?
Social enterprise. It just sounds like a democratized workplace.
Yes, indeed. And it's a different way. It's what was described as the halfway point between a not-for-profit, a non-profit organization, and a for-profit organization. So,
Okay.
Where not-for-profits, typically run by volunteers, the board is made up of members of the community. They get charitable status, and any extra that they make goes right back into the system. Nobody takes it home, that sort of thing. Which is the complete opposite of for-profit, where they do not get government grants, they do not get charitable status, they do pay the taxes, and they do get to keep all the surplus that they make. Okay. Also, they're not behooven to the customers in the for-profit business. They are beheld only to the shareholders, and their only dictive is to maximize shareholder value. Everything else is secondary. And in fact, if it can be shown, if the shareholders can show that you did not maximize their shareholder value, you could get sued and get in a lot of trouble, apparently. As a matter of fact, that's what happened to Conrad Black when he got in trouble way back in the day. And everybody's favorite medical executive to hate, that's Scarelli guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a rat. That was a little mean.
World's most punchable face. No, world's second most punchable face.
The first most punchable face goes to Brock Turner.
Oh, sorry.
Third
Most punchable face.
Are we right? We'll leave it up to everybody's imagination as to who we're referring to. But anyway, social enterprise basically involves members of the community, specifically our customer base, as members of the board, and invites them to be a part of the business is invited, I should say. Let me back up. Inviting members of your customer base to become a part of the board is one of the possible examples of a social enterprise. Most specifically, a social enterprise, instead of being beholden to the stockholders, the shareholders. Okay, yeah. So instead of being beholden to the shareholders, as you are in a for-profit business, a social enterprise is beholden to. It just left me. It's not stockholders. Stakeholders. Is that right?
So stakeholders would be employees and such, or anybody who has a stake in the company. So anybody whose livelihood is dependent on the company's
But
success.
in this case, it would be not just the employees or the workers, but also the people who are utilizing the services. So
Oh, okay.
right. So
So like an energy company or something. Where it's
And-
like if they go down, then people lose electricity, kind of thing.
more like what would be an example?
I just left that as an example because Ontario Hydro has been privatized.
Oh,
Oh,
grumble,
I
grumble.
hope that we're a stakeholder in their business plan.
Well, we're the stakeholders because we're the recipient of what they have, right?
Yeah.
So now, in our case, they're no longer, because the Ontario public no longer holds the controlling shares or the majority shares of Ontario Hydro, and Ontario Hydro is now less concerned about the citizens of Ontario and more concerned about maximizing shareholder value. They can up the charges to that they're charging to us, the customers, because they don't really care about us, the customers. They don't really care about getting electricity to us. They care about maximizing shareholder value to the people who own shares in Ontario Hydro, as I understand it. I might, might be a little off, but this is my basic understanding of it. So that's why we pay obscene, crazy prices for our hydro, because when they split up Ontario Hydro, they split it up into the manufacturing and distribution, and so the distribution private company buys from the private company, which is a different company that manufactures the electricity, in order the right to distribute it, and then they turn around and charge us, which is fun, whatever it is that they cost them to distribute it. And of course that's fractured up throughout the entire province. So Toronto Hydro distribution is different from rural Ontario distribution, which is why people in rural Ontario pay through the nose, and people in Toronto get a really discounted electricity because they have volume discount. There's so many customers, they can afford to sell them the electricity a lot cheaper, and also everybody's a lot closer together. Was a time when that was one company and it was run by the province, and they were not trying to make a profit. They were just trying to provide a service. And it was balanced by our taxes, which was touted as some sort of like evil, and that Mike Harris and Ernie Eves was going to bring in the free market, and
the free market doesn't screw anybody over.
It did not work, but suffice to say, with social enterprises, we are not only beholden to the shareholders, we are beholden to the stakeholders. So if it's bad for our customers, we have to take that into consideration before we implement it. And legally speaking, that has to be a consideration. So in a weird sense, I don't know the answer to this, but I do wonder if it leaves us open to potential lawsuits if we ever bilk our customers, which would be interesting.
But bill also, our customers in a way.
But also really good incentive to not bilk our customers, and which could also be a selling point.
Bill our customers?
No, not bilk.
Bilk. Oh, okay. I heard bill, and I was like, why wouldn't you bill your customers? They owe us money because they're using our services if we're a for-profit company that isn't, like, paid for by taxes. Okay,
yeah.
Bill, got it. Okay,
yeah.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't want to completely... But would that mean, like, if somebody came in and was, like, trying to take advantage of us for some whatever reason and we told them no, would they get in trouble? Because probably not, because it doesn't... Them getting it's kind of like the law of privilege kind of thing, where it's like they might think that because they're not given special treatment that they're losing out, but really they're just being treated like everybody else.
I think it would be they would have to, in a court, as I would understand it, they would have to prove that they were a customer of ours, B, that that we had positioned ourselves into a position where they were obligated to buy exclusively from us, and then we started charging exorbitant amounts, not fair market price sort of thing.
Trying to mistreat the customers. I'm glad that there's good luck proving that, buddy.
Yeah. So,
the one thing about cooperatives is the head office can't tell you have to be nice to customers that are verbally abusing you.
Well, and that's the thing, too. Like, when you get the inevitable Karen who demands to see the manager, I mean, I'm just waiting for the smiles. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Hi, this is the cooperative?
I mean, so you sure you can see the manager.
Do you want to bring this up with the committee the next time we meet?
I mean, we will technically have managers, and that is going to be one of the responsibilities of the managers is to deal with the Karens, which is why they get a dividend share for dealing with the Karens, and also be given tools and stuff to satisfy customers. Because at the end of the day, although the capitalist culture of the customer is always right, has created some really, really toxic expectations, I think, in our society. Yeah. At the same time...
Yeah, especially in the serving world. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh.
At the same time...
You can just see a previous video to hear stories about that.
Right? Oh.
We've gone over that before.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, I said there were three things. Social enterprise is the first one. The second thing is somewhat related, and it has to do with how we take care of and deal with interpersonal conflicts within the 10-100. And that's something Lauren and I had talked about. And I think we've loosely discussed it before. But in terms of fleshing out a little bit more concretely what that's going to look like, one of the things I was thinking, it would be interesting if we had a membership, or a tier of membership that is an elected position So you'd have to be sort of ratified by either a 2/3 majority or 50% plus one majority, and basically that position would be as a conflict resolver. And so whenever we end up with conflict within the 10-100, and we'd have maybe say 3 different members that would operate within that function, and so that gives the opportunity that if there's ever a conflict of interest between two different businesses, you could at least guarantee that at least one member would not be a member of both of those businesses or one of those businesses that could adjudicate between any conflict of interest. Does that make sense?
Conflict of interest, yeah. I mean, you kind of have to anyway.
Well, exactly. But we would have.
What I was saying, the conflict of interest was in the Folk Society Committee. They actually have at the beginning of every meeting a declaration of conflict of interest. So if there's anybody there, they sort of have to declare that, like, or if somebody else is like, hey, I think this person has a conflict of interest in this particular discussion or debate or something, then it's closed in advance, so that yeah, I'm learning a bit. I'm a voting member of the Folk Society, so I'm learning a bit about how these meetings go.
Yeah.
And yeah, disclosure of conflict of interest at the beginning of the meeting is very important. And yeah, it's something that is just on the agenda. Is just like, does anybody have a conflict of interest? And it's brought up every time. So.
Interesting. Do they allow adherents or not adherents? Curious members of the public to observe their meetings?
Probably not. I think you have to be a voting member, which is like, and even then, I still have to pay to get in or volunteer to get into the festival. I'm just a paying member, so I can vote on like certain things, like new board members. So I'm not even a board member.
Yep.
I'm just I just pay to be a voting member, so I can attend the meetings and sort of know what's going on. I was tempted to join the board members, but it's not a paying job, and I don't know how much time I will have once I go back to school to invest in that. So if it opens up again, once I sort of know what my time commitment is versus what time commitment they would be asking, it might then be kept. I don't want to like sign up for that at this point. So
no, that makes sense. Yeah, so either way, like similar, 10-100, you become a voting member by becoming, a paying member of the 10-100, and that gives you one vote and a stake in the business or the group of businesses. It gives you a vote on everything that's put towards the 10-100 as a whole, and it gives you a vote within any business that you are a part of, in terms of being able to elect the manager and stuff. What do you think of in terms? This is okay. So conflict of interest is a good one. But in terms of conflict resolution, like I always try to presume the best in people, and presume that we're not going to have any conflict, or I have a difficult time imagining what the conflict is going to be.
I mean, what people worry about with anything with voting memberships and stuff. I was actually talking to my granddad earlier. He really strongly believes in capitalism, and he was saying, well, if there's only one person, then you don't have to worry about people voting. For they just vote for their buddy's decision because it was their buddy's idea, and then there's infighting. And I'm just like, okay, well, high school politics, and people being picky that way, like, yeah, that can happen, but it's one of those things where it's like everything's voted on. So if there's some kind of issue with that, I can imagine there are processes that have been put in to fix it since, the old days of the Wild West of how do we figure out how a union is like, because everything needs time to figure it out itself out.
I think like
Um,
our democratic impulse is to use apps and to allow it to be as secret as possible. Like traditionally, it's sort of like stand and be counted,
Yeah.
so let everybody know how you're voting, which can create intimidation problems. I think the idea of like having sort of secret ballots that we are like I'm thinking on a business level. So let's say we've got flagons and dragons. So we've got the kitchen team, we've got the serving team, and that's we got the front of the we got the front house and the back house, right? And they get a little bit of a snip between them, and so we now have a conflict and stuff. And so the manager, who's trying to create unity between the front of the house and the back of the house, proposes something, and then says, "Okay, so it's now secret ballot." Instead of everybody having to declare which side of the vote they're on, they just go to their phones and everybody selects what they're voting, and it comes through, and we get an anonymous figure that's a percentage of, it was 57% in favor, 43% and not in favor, or whatever it is. It's 57% in favor, 23 declined to vote, said this would just go with the majority, or what have you. And we'll have these options, and people can see it real time, right automatically. The question goes out, we have the vote, 30 seconds later everybody looks up on the screen and it's there, and we say, okay, well, either we've achieved consensus, or we've achieved the magic number where it's 2/3, or we've achieved 50% plus one, and we now move forward with the mandate of 50% plus one, which I would say, gives it subject to review, after a quarter. If it's 2/3 majority, it gets subject to review after a year, pending, assuming that there isn't like things don't go, I'm going through my head looking for like the most appropriate metaphors I can use that on YouTube that don't involve swearing. Point of the matter is,
you can always censor the swearing and take fudge or whatever.
I was going to say ass over tea kettle, but that seemed a little crass of me at the time, and now I don't care. So yeah,
I don't even get how that's offensive, so that's fine.
oh, I was raised very strictly. Anyway, point of the matter is conflict resolution. I think my hope is that we can lay out clear enough parameters and have clear enough, I'm tempted to use the term boundaries because I'm not too sure what other term to use in this context, but just clearly defined areas of authority so that money gets taken care of this way according to these not precepts, not values.
Have you read the detailed stuff about how, like, the Canadian rules and guidelines for running a cooperative? Because I feel like a lot of that has already been sort of figured out.
Yeah, probably right. But learning disabilities, I got to get my head around that. And I'm talking to my doctor on Monday, so hopefully I can get some meds flipped around, and hopefully that will help with the focus issues.
Okay. Because I figure like a lot of the questions you're asking are regarding things that have sort of already been figured out, so that they're not something we have to worry about. We just need to learn and understand what the rules are.
Yep.
But take advantage of the fact that other people have made and corrected mistakes.
And then we would have, so at any time there's like a conflict, like the manager can't bring like cohesion between the front and back house, again using that example. We would then have one of these one of the members of the conflict resolvers come in and they would sit down and work towards a conflict resolution between the front and the back house until they get it sorted out, using the tools available to us. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also the handbook of Robert's rules for
Yes.
meetings.
Yep.
There's managers, if they have issue, because I know in companies sort of thing, there's an HR department that sometimes has to take care of things outside of house because sometimes it's a problem with management. So I would review the cooperative things, because if it's not even like smaller businesses have this issue where like sometimes you have to call the government to come in and adjudicate for you. If they can't afford to have their own HR department because they're not big enough. But if we have an HR department, that'll be their job. Is if you have a problem with, you can say the problem is the manager. Say it's not the front or the back of the house, maybe it's the manager. And who you talk to at that point? So you need, there has to be somebody else you can talk to, and it's either with certain cases, in the job experience I've had, it's either sometimes there's an HR department you can bring it up with. And then they typically, like with the doc when I had the issues, it was sent to the HR department, but the HR department didn't end up handling it for some reason. It was sent back to the general manager to handle. And he crapped it up so bad, I'm pretty sure that's part of the reason he lost his job.
Yeah.
But I also, there's been times when I've had to call the Ministry of Labor. Because they have it set up where they will send somebody to investigate the situation, but that means that the people who are working in that situation have to keep working in that situation and have the crap that they go on, and the person from the government comes in and they know it's the person from the government, so everybody is of course on their best behavior. But they still talk to people, and they're trained to sort of recognize passive-aggressive behavior and sort of see through a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it is a question, like there are things set up for that system, and I think that that's something that since what you're doing is doing a larger scale cooperative system, to have an HR department that people can turn to, that then they can bring people in a managed setting that isn't emotionally driven sort of thing, have people submit maybe in writing their thoughts so that it's all down. Discuss with somebody in private, because that's the other thing, is sometimes if you're discussing the issues you have in front of the person that is the problem, then they'll intimidate you into silence, so it's important to be able to communicate. There's all these other things, and again, I'm pretty sure there's already a handbook out there on how to do that, how to run an HR department, and there's probably people who are trained in that we can maybe get in touch with. Worst case scenario, though, we can just call the Ministry of Labor if something like that comes up. But then again, you are also thinking way too far down the line.
Maybe. But I mean, that's in part what these conversations are for.
On stage one, which is called. Speaking of which, I wasn't able to last week because I lost internet connection. But have you called anybody on your contact list for adding names to the list or confirming people as members?
Tony, oddly enough, added himself to the 10100 group. I've added a couple of new people to the group over this last week, and I'm hoping that.
What capacity are they interested in becoming part of it?
Well, one of them's my brother, so he's already in. One of them is my friends, and in part an inspiration for a lot of my business experience. I think I may have mentioned her before. Her name is Lori Ann. And I'm really hoping that she'll join us for one of these conversations one of these Mondays, because she's got a lot of practical experience with operating businesses and liaisoning between the government on behalf of businesses and large insurance companies and all that other fun stuff. All the really nitty-gritty aspects of the business, she's done it. Yeah.
So coming in on as a consultant kind of thing?
I would love, I always think of her because she runs a bookkeeping business. So I would love to kind of bring her into being a member of the 10100 and being our bookkeeper, as well as how I've mentioned that there are some people whose job it would be to just have experience. She's one of those people that could, like, for 4 hours a
That's
week.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Are any of the new ads entrepreneurs?
Yes. So Lorianne, she's one. Sarah Fowler, she just kind of, her business kind of tanked because of the COVID-19 and stuff.
Okay, so she's thinking to maybe start something new.
And one of the things I want to talk with Sarah Fowler about is how to get her ground's eye view of what it was like running a bricks and mortar retail store in Owen Sound up until this past weekend. What that was like. Pretty shitty, I'm pretty certain. But also, I'm sure she's...
Especially considering the nature of her town and the conservative voices in town.
Right.
I mean, I was talking to the guy who just opened Scenic Cycle in town, the new bike shop, and he was afraid, he wanted to have a haunted driveway, and he was afraid there were too many conservative voices that were anti-Halloween for him to celebrate Halloween in his driveway. Like, this is Owen Sound for you. And I told him, like, the people who are conservative enough to complain about you having a haunted Halloween in your driveway are not your customer base anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't even worry about them. Just ignore them. They'll make noise. You can just ignore them. It's kind of like Sarah had to deal with even more conservative outcry because of a big piece of wood that grew naturally that way that she put in the window. Like, it grew that way.
Yeah, yeah.
It was not a sculpture. It literally, she found it like that and put it in her window. And they're just like, oh, it's horrible, it's obscene. And it's like, literally, like...
Ironically, it's wood.
Yeah. Like, this, it was the most ridiculous thing. And, like, yeah, it's classic, you know, old-timey conservative and curry clutching and all the rest of that. Yeah, so she'll have definitely have an outlook on that. But it goes with any business. I'm wondering too about, which actually makes me think that, like, if wondering about our businesses, if we're part of one overarching 10-100 co-op, and somebody who's like ultra conservative or whatever has a beef with one of our businesses, will they boycott all of them?
Quite possibly, and that's, and in a scenario like that. There's nothing we can do with conservative boycotters. You know, conservatives are going to conservative. And
they've got their own specialty shops run by people in their own church that they buy exclusively from anyway, that literally supply everything they need. They never have to come into us.
Yeah, no. Our demographic are the people that showed up for the Black Lives Matter march, and there's a lot of them. You know. Because if we assume that only between 8 and 15% of people who support Black Lives Matter showed up, that's a pretty awesome slice of the demographic that we got.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, I'm not too concerned that way. It will be kind of annoying when you're like, oh, you're part of it, or you work for it. Like, okay, the same thing. It's like, okay, boomer. Or,
which, you know, it's unfortunate because the boomers got all the money.
Everything is the freaking devil. Okay.
Right.
I'm morally opposed to this because I don't understand it and it scares me.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And I guess, yeah. Some days I kind of worry. You know, it's like, I think about Flagons and Dragons, and then I think, you know, is there really a demographic for it in Owen Sound? On the surface of it, no. Underneath the surface of it, yeah, there is, because Owen Sound needs a place for kids to go and have birthday parties that isn't just a bowling alley or McDonald's.
Yeah, it's more than, and even then, I do think that there's probably enough people in town. There's a lot of people in town that don't even know about Scenic City Games and the fact you can play games there.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a universal knowledge going on there. So it's one of those things too, where it's like, I mean, I wouldn't want to take away from Scenic City Games is the other thing, because they have the market of people going to play D&D in a store.
Yeah. what I would do if Jeff doesn't want to join the 10100, and we talked about it, he's like, at this stage, that's not something he's really interested in, which is fine. What I would love to do is to work around to get him to translocate his store from wherever it is right now into a 10100 operated space and rent store space from us so that we could help support his business in addition to him supporting ours. You know what I'm saying? And then just sort of make his business the official...
It's still something for down the road, but it is something to definitely think about.
Yeah, and then... Oh, jeez. I don't know if you saw it, but I got a wasp floating around the place now. That's exciting. Yeah. The third and final thing on my thoughts, and then we'll probably call it a day, was thinking ahead to a contemporary physical gathering where I can do a reading, preferably of Understanding Marxism. Do it in one sitting, and sort of do it as a. There's 7 chapters, plus quotes from Karl Marx. It's 80 pages long total, and would probably take about 2 hours or so to go through. I'm guessing, not 100% certain, but it would be very interesting to host on that, as put on an event as a 10100, a night for socially Marxist curious people, such as I certainly am. And
what are you thinking about this? Like when things open up again, or
yes.
soonish?
Well, therein lies the question. Are things? I'm getting the sense that we're getting a slow.
You can't have more than
10 people.
10 people in a group now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still pretty small. It's still something that's worth doing online if you have to do it. The only other thing I'm thinking is, again, that's something that's distracting you from what you need to get done first.
True. Okay. Then maybe we can postpone that. This is just my community organizing impetus working its way to the surface. Create an event that you can galvanize people around.
I think it's more important to try and get more people to attend these meetings, contact more people to see how on board they are, see if they're willing to say that, yes, I want to start a business within your 10100 format is your number one concern. Everything else is extra. Figuring out any details about anything is extra. You want people to say, like, we've got the basic rundown, the basic whatever, as far as that concept goes, there are guidelines for cooperative, there's all this other stuff. So a lot of that's already sort of figured out. You basically just need to get names, get people to say, yes, I'm in, and collect 10 of them if possible.
So to help facilitate that, I'm thinking it might be worth our while to focus next on creating a business template. Something that we can put out to the entrepreneurially minded and say, hey, here's an example.
Yes.
Here's a template. Go to this URL.
I sent you those notes that I took, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That you took before, like the long form notes. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Okay.
And then just have that. So something there, if there's any information that is missing, you can fill that in, but like you can basically just do that as a rundown for people to read and send that out to anybody and just like, here's the pitch.
Yeah.
If there's any other details or something you want, you can add to it. But the information is basically there. You just sort of have to organize it and make it look more presentable than my scribbling notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's basically sort of done. And then send it to people.
It'd be
so
really.
They can look over it.
It would be really cool, because like in our philosophy, and this is partly why I want to talk to Lorianne and to Sarah and to run this idea past them, because their responses are going to temper what the business template looks like, because the business template right at the moment. Hey, John! Good to see you, buddy.
Fine. He just scared the living crap out of me. I had no idea. I thought the cat was coming around because she was in the corner there, and I thought she was coming around trying to jump up on the thing, and I'm looking down that level, and then I see a hand, and I'm like, oh my freaking god, that's a human. Nothing more terrifying than a human.
Right.
Oh, I'd be less worried if it were a bear.
Well, it's a John.
Well, my brother, not a bear, but like a random human hand out of nowhere is like the scariest thing in the world. Anyway,
So
you were saying about contacting people.
The template, like as I currently understand it, I need to know how many people you need in order to operate your business, what your budget is to buy your starting supply, and then sort of what your ongoing like supply costs are. You know, add it all up, and that sort of becomes.
Three things down. I would write them down and add them at the bottom of the pitch you sent to them, and just be like, if you're interested, here's the information we need, and put that as like at the bottom, like here's our pitch. If you're interested, we need these 3 things from you. And if you get those 3 things from them, then you can officially sort of say that they're interested enough in it that you can check them off as they're going to be a member once we get this going.
We could create a form template that asks all the questions, like name of your business, purpose of your business, blah blah blah, and we just fills out all the different forms that and just send people to a website, and people can just click on stuff. It could be a 5 to 10 part process, and it's just answer these questions. You know?
I would. Because the thing is, too, is that's where Gavin comes in.
Yes.
But what you can do before Gavin gets that set up into being fancy is you can just create, like, an editable Word document.
Yep. You can use
that
Google.
You send to people. And you just send them the Word document, have them fill it in, and send it back to you as an email. And that way you can start going before Gavin puts the email together. Because you want to get on this as soon as possible, otherwise we're wasting our time.
You're right, and I pray to God that my mental health issues don't fuck this up. You know.
Yeah, I understand the struggle because it is hard to like. There's that YouTube video I found about the wall of awful, where it's like there's some simple things you just have to do in a day, and you're just trying to get those things done. But there's this wall of awful in front of you that's kind of like all your emotional barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that issue in college or in university, and I still have that issue. And honestly, my advice in dealing with that kind of thing, because that's the thing that, like, nothing is ever going to happen if you don't learn to manage that. What I would recommend...
Are you familiar with the term abolition? Harry, yeah.
I would recommend, because what they said in university is sometimes, like, because they're dealing with students that are overwhelmed with their studies and stuff, and sometimes that wall of awful gets in the way of students getting their homework done. They said, like, plan your day out. There are print-offable things. I can even send them to you if you want. That are basically you block your day out by hour.
Yeah.
It just says, like, this hour I'm going to do this. You write checklists of everything that you need to do, and you break it down into smaller increments. And then you write a schedule of today I do this. It's 4 o'clock. I'm doing this. Okay, so you're doing it.
Yeah, I've got something made up, but it's very empty. Best of intentions.
So fill that in.
Yes.
Fill in, like, you want to, like, micromanage your time is basically how you overcome the wall of awful, because then all you're like, it's 4 o'clock, I need to do this, and then you're more worried, then you're thinking, I need to do this, it's 4 o'clock, so you just push yourself to do it, because by 5 o'clock you're supposed to be doing something else.
Okay.
And it works.
Looks like we're losing your internet there, Laura.
University. There's also the, if you have checklists, like,
The worst part is I won't even be able to go back to the YouTube stream and rewatch it.
That's like one, there's like 100 things to do to accomplish that. Call 2 things. Call 3 people by, like, today I'm going to make 3 phone calls.
Yeah.
to people that that need to whatever, and write down their names or something. So today I'm going to call this person, and this person, and then all day you're only concerned as far as if that thing goes and that. And when you check that off, you've accomplished that, and that sends serotonin and oxytocin, like all the good chemicals and stuff go through the brain, and that then motivates you to do it again the next day. And then it gets easier and easier as you go along, and it counteracts that wall of awful that is in between you and whatever goals you're trying to achieve. Wow. And it sort of works. At least it worked for me.
That's what we call brain hacking.
List. Yes. Yeah. List everything. Break everything down into tiny little bits, and as you accomplish those tiny things, you will gain enough. And then before you know it, you'll look back on everything you've accomplished, and you'll be like, oh my god, I did all of that. Like, if I were to look at my schooling and how I managed to get like a 75 grade point average, I have no idea how I did that. I just know I accomplished it because of all the little things that I did. Mm-hmm. Like write 10 pages today of an essay, you know,
True.
Edit this, read 3 chapters of that. And then it's all broken down, and then by the end of it, I'm looking back and I'm like, oh my god, I read like 12 books in a year. 12 big, one like big, like freaking tome in a year of my psychology textbook. Yeah. I cannot believe I read that entire book. But I did. But because I was in it, it was broken down into tiny increments. I didn't even notice the progress I was making because I was too busy like doing it. Mm-hmm. To really stop and think about it. And when you stop and think about it, that's when you hit the wall of awful.
Oh my god. Do you know, Laura, I love thinking about shit.
I know,
that's my problem.
Me too.
I do. And
I am an overthinker myself, yeah. And that's when it's like, that's when you take in, when it gets to that point where it's like, because you don't want to burn out either. So you want to put in that schedule, you want to put in self-care day. So if you need to let your mind wander as it will, make a long bath, put on some music, and just sit there and let your mind do whatever it's going to do for like an hour. Set a timer if you have to. Yeah. And just let your mind do the thing that it wants to do, get it out of its system, and then go back to what you need to do. And it's like, yeah, it's hard. I'm not saying it's super easy, but that's how it's done. That's how I pull things off that I don't even know how I've done them. And like lately it's been harder, and I understand things are harder for you too because you just like have systems and stuff. But it is doable. And it's definitely not outside of your ability. No. I mean, think of how much you've done before.
Yeah.
How did you do all that?
Jesus, sorry. How much did I get done before? Which context?
I'm still on a meeting. My grandma's calling me, so I can't be on the phone for too much longer.
Well, that's quite all right.
She's trying to call me and I'm still on a meeting. I can't sit still is my thing today. I'm completely incapable of sitting still, because if I sit still, I get lethargic and unmotivated, and I don't want to do anything. Which is why I haven't gotten anything done that requires sitting still.
Right.
I'm on the meeting. I'll talk to you in a minute. I'm just gonna.
Well. So just let me let's wrap up with that final thought that you were having. You asked me a question about what was the question you asked? It had to do with sorry, I'm running into a wall.
How many people you've called?
Was that the question? It's, your internet has sort of been in and out there, so sometimes it's piecing together. Yeah.
What, like, how did you do things before?
Yes. What was the context of that question? I was trying to fix.
Basically, the context of that was like, if you think about everything you used to accomplish before you developed a wall of awful that hindered your productivity, How do you remember your frame of mind when you used to get stuff like that done?
Gotcha. Oh, yeah. Okay. Definitely some good thoughts, or good things to chew on there. Some things to journal about. More to the point. Um, uh, Less things to think about. More things to work on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because like we want to make this a reality, so sometimes you need to step back before you can step forward.
Yeah.
Regular classes. Um. So
No, that's true. And I think working on creating that template of like these are the things we need. You know, so if you got a business idea, um,
yeah, make that be this week's chore. Make a day, sit down and do it, or even break it up into smaller increments. Like
and
jot it out first in a way that you understand from my notes one day, and then the next day you type it out on the computer, and then the next day you edit it, and then the next day you read over it to make sure you didn't forget anything, and then that's just like 20 minutes of every day that you've just scheduled into your thing, and then by the end of the week you've accomplished this task that seemed insurmountable.
Too true.
Or if just sitting down and doing it isn't that insurmountable, then you could just be like, I'm going to do this, tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and I'm going to work on it until it's done. And then when I'm done, I'm going to reward myself with what my favorite beer or my favorite ice cream or something. And that's the other thing, is a reward system.
Yeah.
Put in a reward system, and don't let yourself have that thing until you've accomplished that task.
Right.
But then reward yourself. Like when you finish something, so that's another part of reprogramming the brain, is when you've accomplished that task, even if it's tiny, do something that to reward yourself and tell yourself, I'm doing this, I'm having this thing that I enjoy because I did this. And now it'll help reprogram your brain into being like more motivated to do things. And yeah,
that's pretty brilliant. I think so. And
so I would recommend that. Like, make a list. Maybe, when you finish this call or something, look at what you need to do. Break it down into, okay, right now I need to call 3 people and write out that note. And maybe give yourself a deadline, like before the next week meeting or the meeting after that meeting, to do them. And then schedule it into your days so that it's not like I woke up today. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, because it's on your calendar. Your calendar is dictating your whatever, and it's telling you it's time to do this. And you can't have your whatever beer or whatever your reward is until you've done this. And you're like, oh, well, I really want that thing. I could really use a beer. I could really use to relax or do whatever. I better get that thing done.
Yeah, too true.
Because otherwise I'll feel guilty if I drink that beer before getting this other thing done, and it'll make me feel worse. I better get that thing done.
I started doing that with breakfast, and it helped in terms of eating breakfast. Now time to step up my game. Yeah. Now breakfast and doing stuff for the 10100. So I love that.
Exactly.
And
implement it. Implement it in any part of your life where you're not doing something that you feel like you need to do, because it does help. It helps a lot. And I'm somebody who struggled with motivation. I took some time off, especially after my concussion. I kept powering myself through. I hit another wall, and I realized I had to take a break. So sometimes you do just need to say, I'm not able to do this, I need to take a break, and then consult people, get some counseling, do whatever you need to do to be able to handle whatever. If the issue is so big that it's an emotional, crippling thing, then you need to address that first. But once you feel like you're motivated and you really want to start getting things done, but you just can't bring yourself to do it because the wall of awful is preventing you, that's when you implement this other system. So when I go back to school in September, I'm going to have my every moment of every day is going to be down to the wire kind of schedule. Yeah. Because that's the only way I'm going to be able to get through it. Because I know me, and I know my motivation.
Right.
I need to do that with a couple other things that I've been meaning to do that require sitting still. Because I'm getting all the stuff done in my yard, but I was supposed to turn one of my kid stories into a script for a friend of mine so he can have his kids play it out at his place, and he's thinking of maybe putting it in on the Roxy or something because he's got connections. I was like, oh, that's great. I've got it about halfway done.
Right.
And I can't bring myself to sit down and do it because every time I sit down to do it, the lethargy kicks in, and I was just like, and then like with lethargy comes depression, and then I'm like, I need to go outside and do something. So I'm trying to like work outside more, and it's hard. I get it. It's so difficult. The kids are out of school now, so they're going to be even more bored, so I better get that thing done for him.
Yeah, and of course the kids have been trapped at home since March too, so that's
been
exciting.
Trapped at home since March, and now he doesn't even have their like homeschooling to entertain them because they're off for the summer.
Check on your friends with small kids; they're going insane.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll finish writing this for him and send it to him, and then I should probably write the other one. And I've come up with another story. I've got 2 more stories. One's a kid's story that I have to write. And then the other one is actually a horror story that could be like a whole horror novel. I want to write that. And then the other thing is I got to figure out how to get published and submit some of this stuff for publishing because I want to get published.
Yeah, that gives me a new idea for a business.
Just be as reclusive as I want to be. Just be like, I go out when I say I go out. I interact with other people on my terms because I've had enough of it. I've enough of other people being like, you entertain us now. You serve unto us. Like, no. I'm done. Done with it.
Hey, Laura.
Getting too old for this crap.
I hear you. Has anyone reminded you that you're awesome yet today?
No. Not even my cat, and I know she feels it that way. She just never admitted it.
No.
Has anybody told you that you're awesome yet today?
I'll take it.
Oh, you broke up.
Oh, I was going to say, no, not really. It's been a day. I had therapy earlier today, so that was fun.
Oh, so it's always really hard to... Yeah. Bring up motivation the next time you have a therapy session.
We talked a little bit about that.
They might end up telling you the exact same things I told you.
We won't go into my therapy session on stream. Point of the matter is,
I'm not telling you. I'm not interested in what. I'm not going to pry. I'm just saying it's something that if you're struggling with it, you can bring it up, and
oh yeah.
If they tell you anything different than I told you, then bring it up with me because I'm interested in learning more techniques. But they might just tell you what I told you because I learned it from psychology professors and students and things that they were implementing in their own schools. I'm probably saying the same thing.
There's a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy stuff that we cover. So
yes,
there's some overlap.
I love cognitive. Well, that's pretty much what this is too. It's like because you're rewarding yourself and you're basically reprogramming your brain, which is what cognitive behavioral therapy means, is you're using your behavior to repair your cognitive functioning.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
There's some other aspects to it and stuff as well. We can talk shop about psychology later, because it really is fascinating.
I should go out and finish reading the Communist Manifesto on a swing. I should go talk to my grandma. She was wondering where I put the light.
All right, comrade, I'll let you go for that. And to anyone who's stuck around for our final section, where the tremendous Laura Van Dyke gave us a little pep talk and some pointers on how to get her done. And I
am good at that.
Yep. What should we call your section? Giver or what's
it? The motivation. The motivation speech part of it.
Right?
How to overcome your mental blockages.
It's valuable. It's valuable. I miss. What was your YouTube channel called?
Because there's a lot of people that are just like, just go out and do it, just do it. And it's like that's not actually helpful because now you're just adding deep pressure and negativity, and the fact that people are out there judging you for not just doing it. That there is a wall of awful that needs to be overcome, and there are ways to actually do it. So if somebody says, just do it, that's not actually helping
No.
Nike. That doesn't actually work. You need to, there is a cognitive wall that is put up between you and what you want to do, and sometimes it really gets in the way. And
Too true.
there are tips and tricks to how to get around that wall. But it is, you basically have to break through it. With like chipping it away. You're basically chipping away at your wall of awful with a spoon. Until next thing you know, you got through it and you don't even know how, because a spoon shouldn't be strong enough to do it.
Too true. Well,
You're trying to break out of a prison with a spoon, and yet you look back and you're like, how did I dig an entire time? I literally don't know how I did it. And a little bit at a time.
and you know what? On that happy note, I'm gonna go watch Shawshank Redemption and get inspired all over again.
There you go.
Actually, I am watching some movies tonight. I forget what they are, but they're movies I haven't seen before and really need to have.
Use those movies as motivation to get things done. If you really want to watch those movies, you're like, I really need to rewatch this movie. I will not rewatch this movie until I've made 3 phone calls. And then you're just like, then by the end of the day, you're like, I really want to watch that. I'm picking up Rhino. Pick up the phone.
There you go. Laura, I love how you think. And you're awesome. And so is everybody who's come so far to join us on this journey. Thank you so much for watching this. We look forward every Monday to having this conversation. You can find us at 10100 Grey Bruce on Facebook and on YouTube on my channel until I get organized enough to start a proper channel. So until then, know that you are awesome. We will have another conversation this time next week. And until then, take care.